Hello, everybody. This is Vicki Davis with Cool Cat Teacher Talk. Today, we're talking about the real deal.
Ever wondered how remarkable teaching happens? Find out right now at Cool Cat Teacher Talk with award-winning teacher Vicki Davis. Get insights from top educators, tech tips, and inspiration to elevate your teaching.
Welcome back to Cool Cat Teacher Talk. Today, we're talking about the real deal, real AI, real change, and real progress. First, we'll start with a real AI expert, Rob the AI guy, Robert Benjamin, to talk about both AI and working in the profession. And then we'll go to Zach Kinsler, a young man working in the AI business, to try to help you see a picture of what does it take to work in the growing AI profession. Then we'll shift to real-world skills in real schools with award-winning principals Courtney Walker and Misa Sato. Finally, we'll give you some real help with Brian Page as he gives us homework hacks. Ultimately, we want them to know how to be responsible and how to handle that homework when they have it. First, let's go to Robert Benjamin.
Cool Cat Teacher Talk with award-winning teacher Vicki Davis.
I'm so excited today. We're joined by Robert Benjamin, better known as Rob the AI guy. Rob's a YouTuber who built a reputation for making complex AI and automation concepts simple, and I'm proof of that. Rob, he has over 700,000 subscribers on YouTube and growing, over 3 million views on his YouTube channel. And a massive audience of people, including me, are looking to him to help us stay ahead of everything that's going on. So, Rob, let's talk about current models, because one thing you've taught me is that not all models are the same.
They are, yes. In terms of models, I'd really say that there's 3 big ones. You could add in a 4th if you want to. Besides what everybody says, I don't think that it's as good. Those big 3, I would say, would be ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini. You could throw Grok in there. Again, there's a lot of mixed feelings around Grok. I personally, this isn't too popular of an opinion, but I really don't think that it's that great. It's trained and it's created in a different way than all the other models, but the actual output that you get doesn't seem to be anywhere near as good as the other models. In terms of just a breakdown on all 3 of them, what Google's really good at is it's multimodal. That might sound really technical. All that means is that you could give it text, you could give it voice, you could give it video, you could give it audio. It can take any type of information, which is incredibly powerful because you could upload a video to it, or you could upload a podcast to it and actually get the transcript from it. ChatGPT's superpower is just that it's been around the longest. I really think it's probably the easiest for most people to use. And Claude, the last one, I would say their superpower is writing. It tends to adapt to somebody's tone and style a lot better. In addition to that, they have something called MCP. Again, not to get super technical, it allows you to access other tools and other apps inside of Claude. So using all 3 of them, you kind of get a totally different experience, which is why I'd be curious to know your situation. But I personally use all 3 of them because having something for this and having somebody for this, and then you have somebody else for this, it's the same way with the models.
I use them all, honestly, side by side, and I teach my students to as well, because they're constantly changing. And one thing you just announced, I was over in the school, was that inside Claude, we're going to be able to use Excel and output to Excel. Google Sheets and all that stuff has been around, but I haven't been impressed. Have you been able to test the Excel features yet in Claude?
So I will be putting something in there later today, and I'm sure I'll upload something on YouTube about it also. What I was saying before, MCP, Claude created that. The company behind Claude is actually who's responsible for creating that. It's basically how different AI tools talk to each other. So I would expect from Claude to be at the cutting edge of that.
Now, you've also really got me using Perplexity a lot, which I know uses all the different models, and they have a new web browser called Comet. Okay, so what's the deal with this, and why would people want to use an AI-powered web browser?
Comet, if you've gotten the chance to play around with it, I really think that that is the next frontier of where AI is going, because it's like a web browser that remembers everything and can do things. Anything a human can do on a web browser, Comet can do for you, and you could set up shortcuts and you could set up automations on it. You can talk to it. which is where I really think that things are going to go. With your phone, you could talk to your phone and say, could you remember this for me? Or could you do some small task for me? But let's say that you're on a walk and you don't have your phone, but you have your Apple Watch. You could say, hey, could you look this up and then schedule out this meeting and then send this email? And hey, did Vicki get back to me in my DMs on school, and be able to access pretty much anything that you can from a browser remotely like that, which is really cool. Another thing that I would say, so I do have like 190 free invitations for Comet left. So if anybody in your audience wants one, we could probably figure out a way to reserve 15, 20 of those for folks to get.
Just DM me or Rob, the AI guy on YouTube. It's a great place to follow, and you do respond to comments. A tough thing for a lot of us educators as we deal with AI is it's really easy to get into some kind of hype engine. People are selling me something like, I'm trying to figure out how to teach this to students. I want them to be you in 10 years, Rob. What do I need to be teaching my students so that they can be successful in a world of AI?
I spend a lot of time thinking about this. So I have a lot of younger siblings also. My parents want them, not that I'm against college, but my parents think like, go to college and learn this. I'm like, you do realize your phone can do that, right? And like most of the world doesn't realize that yet. What is really going to be helpful to know in the future is how to think critically and how to solve problems. Because if it's just recalling something, or if it's just finding something out, those are very easy tasks that AI is going to be able to do. But like being able to architect AI and think through from A to Z about something, I think is going to become really powerful, especially in a world where everybody is looking at TikToks that are 5 seconds long and they can't focus to read a book or to think through something like that. I really think that is like the most important thing. The other thing that I would say on the point that you made about how you could really get lost in like just today, 5 new updates have come out with just the big models in AI. I really think that like where the value is going to accrue with this is in like building a relationship with the tool that you use so that it has memory. It knows how you respond to things. And I think that is really where things are going to go. I always tie it back to a relationship, right? Especially in the age of the internet. You could probably find a new significant other every 30 minutes if you wanted to. But that's not where the value accrues in a relationship. You can't get that time back when you spent 5 years, 10 years. My parents have been together for like 40 years. When you've been together for that long, there's no replacing that. I think that AI is going to be the same because the more times you interact with it, the more that it knows about you, the more access that it gets to your life, that just becomes really powerful to have that relationship. As odd as that sounds, us now having this relationship with technology.
It's a struggle because, I had a lot of projects in ChatGPT OpenAI that were really great. And then they unleashed GPT-5 for very good reasons because of the AI companion apps, which are really destroying this younger generation I work with. I get it because a lot of people were misusing GPT-4. But in some ways, that move kind of broke some of my projects. I think that's one thing is it just feels like sometimes it's inconsistent with these models. They do seem to be changing, and what they were yesterday is not what they were today. Sometimes I see people even argue and say, oh, AI does this, and then others like AI does that. And I want to say, hey guys, AI does something different for all of us. It's a different interaction for each of us,
Absolutely. This is more of a hot take, but I think what really has happened, and I haven't said this on my YouTube channel because I think that like to some degree this will scare people. I think really what we've done is like given birth to a new life form. If you look at an individual, like I'm sure if my teachers saw me today, they'd be like, wow, that's Rob. Things have changed. I used to have a buzz cut. I had no facial hair. So the same thing is going to happen with AI. And I also think that it's one of those things where like you may be mad at that change today, but later on, it's like, wow, I can't imagine life without that. But the moment that it happened, everybody was all upset about it. Yeah, that's really how I look at this. Again, I really think it's like a life form that's going to take shape of its own and constantly change and morph into new things. The people that take advantage of it, I think, are going to be at a huge advantage because a lot of people still, even today, just opting out of it or putting their head in the sand and I don't want to hear about it.
Or one thing I see with kids is, you say life form, and I know exactly what you're meaning, but I see a lot of kids getting confused. They won't make a decision without asking ChatGPT. And that's like not understanding how this model works. I really feel like that type of relationship is a misapplication of what it does, because from a business perspective, I'm using it for all these business use cases. But if I got a problem, I may talk to a pastor, I may talk to a friend, but ChatGPT's like, to me, that's where I see confusion happening with the younger generation I work with. You probably don't see that though with business people, do you? Do you see business people leaning on AI in that way?
You do. Again, not to get too technical, but I do think this will be good for the audience. So the way that all of these models work, and every single one of them works like this, is they have something called a context window. A context window is an amount of information that you could give to it, which would be like back and forth exchanges. And then at some point, it doesn't remember the things that you told it because it exceeds the context window. So the way that I like to think about this is, imagine if you and I were communicating with each other, but we only had a whiteboard. So once we filled up the whiteboard, if I wanted to say anything else to you and you wanted to say anything else to me, we would have to erase something. That's what these models are doing, which is why I'm sure you've seen it on the internet. A lot of people say it started lying to me or it started not remembering things. And then you get frustrated with it and you're only continuing to go further down that path. So the way that you could fix that is actually by starting a new chat and refreshing it. And then you'll have a new context window. But yeah, I mean, I see this across everything. It's like that saying with the internet. You can't believe everything that you read on the internet. I think it's the same thing. You can't believe everything ChatGPT tells you. How do students, how do younger people really learn to harness this? I think it really is critical thinking and being able to say, you know what? I don't think that's right. And then having a discourse with it.
You talked about that some conversations are is the word stem or branch. Is that going to help with the context window?
Correct. Branching it's a new feature that ChatGPT just came out with. So when you're inside of a chat, if you, at one point you're like, oh, it brought up a good point, or I want to bookmark that for later, you can branch it and it will then open up a new chat where you can continue that conversation. But again, the nice part about that is it then doesn't bring in the context from that other chat. So you kind of have imagine if you were dealing with somebody that typically is really smart, but you woke them up at 2:00 in the morning. They didn't get enough sleep. They didn't get anything. Doing that is kind of like getting a fresh version of ChatGPT when it's at its best.
I gave a keynote last week and I named the models besides ChatGPT. And it was like out of a room of 250, one person had heard of one of the other models. For example, Google Notebook LM. Google Notebook LM is one of the greatest things that's ever been invented for students. My AP kids last year thanked me. They said, Miss Davis, we aced all our college classes with this amazing Google Notebook LM. But I don't know if folks are just overwhelmed or just don't understand, how powerful these things can be.
So a few things. I have a lot of thoughts on this. So first, I do think that people are going to have to be proactive the same way that you're being proactive to seek these things out. Right? Before getting really involved with AI, and still to this day, I run a pretty big social media consulting agency. I understand the algorithms on all these different platforms where people are consuming media pretty well. The way that they all work now is it's interest-based, right? You could see this just if you scroll through my content. When I talk about ChatGPT, it gets way more views. The reason it gets way more views is because the algorithm is pushing that because it knows that people are interested in that. A brand new AI could come out tomorrow that is the best thing. But if nobody else is engaging and talking, it just never gets exposed to people, which brings up an issue, right? Where if you're only relying on what's coming to you and you're not seeking it out, you aren't ever going to find those things because you're just going to continue to get fed what is quote unquote popular, which isn't always the best.
I have a book coming out called Innovate Like a Turtle, and I think I'm going to need to reach out to you, quote that, because as a busy teacher, I've always taken 15 minutes 2 times a week, which doesn't sound like much, to dig in and figure out what's new. You have to burst the bubble of search because there's a search bubble, right? There's a social media bubble on whatever social media, and you have to break it. Like Facebook keeps sending me sharks. Like, how do I get them to stop sending me sharks? They scare me to death. Maybe I'm looking at them too long. I think that one thing a lot of folks miss is that AI can actually make their lives better. I mean, without AI, there's me halftime, my son halftime, and we're producing a radio show and a TV show and podcasts and all the stuff we're doing. We couldn't do it without AI. And it's just making our lives better, and we're able to share with more people because of all the tools that have the AI built in.
A little bit more background on me. I run multiple YouTube channels, multiple pages. This used to require a full team to do this. Now it's 3 or 4 people and things are better than ever. It's because you're able to do so much more, right? One person can get so much work done, but one person with AI can get the amount of work done that 5, 6, 7 people were able to get done just 6 months ago.
Wow.
And I think that it's only going to continue to advance. And I'm sure you guys have seen it, even with trying to fix audio or get clips. That used to take hours, and now it's done in minutes.
It's incredible, particularly what's happened with sound. One thing I talk to my students about and adults is this whole vibe coding. We used to call it citizen programming, right? The everyday person is going to be able to describe a website or an app, and AI is going to be able to write it for them. Well, we're really here. How can you kind of explain that world to help people understand, hey, this is what's out there to build these websites and to build these apps?
Vibe coding is, I think you explained it pretty well. In the past, you needed to know a computer's language to build things on a computer. I don't know how to speak Spanish, so I can't go do something in Spain or Mexico. Now, you don't have to know how to do that. You can just talk to it in your natural language, English, and it will go off and do that thing. Now, what most people don't understand about computers, the way that they work, is if you were going to tell a computer to make you a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you can't just say, hey, go make me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You would have to literally tell it like step number 1, take the jar off the peanut butter. Step number 2, now put that on the table next to you. Step number 3, grab the knife with your right hand and go through step by step by step. Vibe coding has kind of taken a lot of that away, where the AI will now go ahead and do that. I know that you still run into issues with that because it's not perfect. A human still has to go through and think through, oh, this is, where the problem was, or this is where this was. It's really incredible that work with prompt engineering and things like that, like inventing a new language to talk to this thing that can do all of our work for us.
Well, it's one reason I'm kind of biased towards my AP Computer Science Principles class, because my students tell me I can interact with AI better because I know some of the basic language. I understand the computational thinking. As we finish up, Rob, I want you to talk about your school and, of course, your channel and any other places you think that, hey, this is a good place for beginners to start.
Yeah, in the school community, I share, like, as you know, because you're in there, all of the updates about like anything that comes out. I share tutorials on there, video walkthroughs. A lot of times I'll try to share just like my raw thoughts around how people should think about these things or things like that. Because a lot of times I do think that that also is way more powerful than like, hey, here's how you can do this automation that's going to automate your email. It's like, okay, how do you think about life outside of that? YouTube, I try to do the same thing. I post on YouTube almost every single day. This isn't a sales pitch or anything like that. But to really get more in depth, like I was saying with social media, like there are things that are incredibly powerful that I can't share on social media because nobody will see it. And then it's just going to hurt me, right? So like those things need to be shared in a closed environment. Even if it's not my school, I would suggest and urge people to join these communities because I really think that's where it happens. It then becomes normal where like in your everyday life, you might not be interacting with people that think about these things, but online you could be in a community where it then quote unquote becomes real to you that this is what life looks like for us. Not like the biggest fan of X because I think that there's a lot of things that get pushed on there and whatnot. But that also is where a lot of this stuff is happening. What I would suggest people do, this is what I do. Will they be able to see the video from this?
Yes. Well, so the people who are listening on TV will be able to see the video.
Okay, so this is what I've done. I don't go on X. I don't log into X, but I'll show you guys my phone right now. I just get updates of the latest AI updates. There's a few accounts on X where I'm like, okay, I like this person's takes. This person is a quote unquote thought leader. So I set up notifications for that. So I just get those notifications so I don't have to go on X and see all the other things out there in the world that to block.
This reminds me, I had a pastor who once said that to move ahead in the world, you don't take classes, you take people. You find great people, you find people who resonate with you. For me, I prefer no hype, just teach me, because I'm having to teach. And Rob, the AI guy, that's who we've been talking to. I recommend his YouTube channel. I recommend his school, SKOOL. It's one of the only notifications I get is from Rob's school. I get too many notifications everywhere else. But Rob, thanks for coming on the show. And all you educators listening, one thing I've always read is that some of the greatest innovations happen when we get outside of our silo of our profession to learn from others. And I think it's really important to connect with people using AI in all different areas because this is where our students are heading. Thanks for taking your time today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And again, you leave a comment anywhere, I respond to everything. So I will definitely see it and we'll try to leave a thoughtful response.
Cool Cat Teacher Talk with award-winning teacher Vicki Davis.
Thank you, Robert, for really explaining some of the things that I think a lot of us don't understand about artificial intelligence. Now we're going to talk to a young man, Zach Kinsler, in the AI profession as we talk about the real deal for working in AI. And if you want to get the show notes, just go to coolcatteacher.com/real deal. Now, on with Zach. Today, I'm so excited to be with Zach Kinsler from Boodle Box. A lot of research is coming out about the need for transparency with teachers, the need to help our students know how to use AI in the right ways, how to hold them accountable. Zach works with Boodle Box, and I really like it for some different reasons in that you can use all the different AI models, and we're going to dig into it a little bit. But Zach, first, talk a little bit about what you do, and because you're a young person involved in an AI startup, Boodle Box, and you're working with higher education institutions, and now a lot of us at K-12. What's your job like every day?
Thanks for having me. First off, it's a very fun day to day. What I get to do is I get to talk to educators from all over the world. I work with students in Africa, the US, Australia, and pretty much what I do is just figure out what's working, what's not working, show them Boodle Box, do some general AI education, right? Prompt engineering, safety. I have my own podcast, which I've had you on one time, which is awesome. And really what I get to do is just work with people and actually help them use the tool. My job's kind of transitioned from introducing it to implementing it. So I get to go into education systems and kind of say, hey, here's an example of how you can take what you had before and make it better with AI in a safe, kind of ethical manner.
So tell everybody the name of your show.
It's called the Smarter Campus Podcast. So I have teachers on from all over the world, lots of kind of interesting conversations of just learning about how people are actually doing it the right way, which is super, super cool to see. And I learn a lot from every single one that I do, which is fun.
How did you decide to go the AI direction? What led you to embrace AI? How'd you come across it, and why are you jumping in?
I was a junior in college when ChatGPT came out. And one of my friends was very Discord, Reddit, always super interested in how technology is changing and stuff. And we both got on the wait list of ChatGPT because I was like, I don't even know what this is. This kid just thinks this is going to be really cool. And I'll never forget, we were sitting in the front row of a systems engineering class and my friend punched me. Look at this. And ChatGPT did the problem on the board. And I just both of us got so infatuated with it where I did every single thing with ChatGPT when it came out, and it was really bad then. Luckily, I had a teacher that was super interested in it, an engineering professor that kind of helped us. And then what we ended up doing was just go tell my teachers that I wrote my paper with AI, and then they would get upset about it. But then I would be like, I guarantee you, if you ask me questions about this versus everyone else in the class, I probably know a lot more about it. Ignited the passion of, wow, no one has any idea what's going on, and this is going to be a big mess, right? I just started interviewing college students and teachers, really anyone that would talk to me, so that when a teacher would be like, this stuff's bad, I would show them interviews of other people, which is really cool. I kind of thought it was super cool. I've always been a very ideas person where I have lots of business ideas and I have lots of things that I like to do, but I would hinder myself a lot of the time because I couldn't do the technical part. I couldn't finish the idea that I had. And that's why I love this thing so much, is that I can do anything and anyone can do anything.
You feel like you were very transparent with your professors. How did you use ChatGPT or any AI tool and not cheat yourself out of the education? What's the difference between how you used it when it started and how people are using it now? I had a kid I was talking to anonymously. He's like, I can't even write a paragraph anymore. I'm like, okay. And then I was talking to him about what he'd written about, and he couldn't even recall anything he'd written about.
There's obviously a difference between what you did and what this student did.
Really, I made a video about it this morning. It's like just the want to learn. If you don't care about something and you don't want to grow from that, you're not going to be able to write a paragraph. I think it's more of a reflection of self than people talk about. AI is really just a second thinking brain, if that makes sense. Like the thing that I do a lot more that I don't think people do is I get it to ask me questions. What don't you understand about this? Ask me questions and I'll help you with this. And then it's like the other, explain this to me like I'm a 5-year-old. I probably use that more than just about anything else on AI. And just to explain something super simply. And then it's like, okay, explain this to me like I'm 10. Explain this to me like I'm 15. I struggle with reading. I always have struggled with reading. I've been a terrible reader and writer my whole life. But now I really like reading and creative stuff when I didn't like that. Because a lot of the things that would hinder me were just the actual doing of it. But you know what a good paragraph sounds like. And if you read, you can't not read what you do. And that's the other thing that people do shockingly so often. They just make things and then get rid of it.
This is a great example for those who are dyslexic or dysgraphic, like a lot of students I work with, to understand that if you use this as a learning support, you're still learning. Where the only place you can learn is in your brain, right? If you're truly supporting learning and you're holding yourself accountable that I'm going to learn this, I'm going to use it to help me where I'm weak. I'm actually a very good writer. I love writing. I love reading. So for me, writing is a different experience with AI because I love researching, but I can research for hours. Offloading the tools like Perplexity, some of these other tools, the research piece frees me up to write. You and I are both using it in different ways, but we're using it to support places that help our unique needs as a human being.
I think that's it. That's what it's all about. Taking what you're good at and freeing up time, using what you're good at to use the things to effectively do what you're not good at.
My personal learning objective for 2025, as we're recording this, I've been digging into just understanding agents. Did you get a simple explanation of what an agent is and why it's so important?
That's high level Boodle Box. So an agent is super important for people to understand because the difference between a bot and an agent is a bot, you have to prompt it, right? So you have to tell it, hey, complete this task. But an agent, you can set up where, hey, every time I get an email, you're going to read it, you're going to give me a draft, and then you're going to put it in an Excel sheet so I can see the emails that were sent today. So as you can see, there was only one instructions and lots of tasks were accomplished afterwards. And agents are a very interesting concept. I totally recommend everyone going to read into it further on, because there's lots of misconceptions that agentic AI is here right now. And the real value of it is just stringing together large language models. Very interested in it as well right now.
Cool Cat Teacher Talk with award-winning teacher Vicki Davis.
Now that we've looked at the AI industry, let's talk about preparing students for the real world with award-winning principal Courtney Walker. The National Association of Secondary School Principals, NASSP, has named Courtney Walker the 2024 NASSP National Assistant Principal of the Year. And she is the assistant principal of Carrollton High School in Georgia. This is your 15th year in education. Congratulations, Courtney.
Thank you so much.
Today, we're talking about customizing learning with both students and teachers. So could you kind of talk about your philosophy behind customizing learning?
I'm definitely a believer in that learning is not a one-size-fits-all approach. That really was something I was very passionate about when I was in the classroom as a teacher. It's really figuring out what each of my individual students needs and figuring out how to plan instruction that really met the needs that they were presenting. As I moved into administration, I really wanted to be intentional to do the same thing with our staff. I've been in administration for 5 years now. In my first couple of years, I really took time just to sit and listen to our teachers. And the feedback that they gave us was two things. One, that they wanted to be a part of the decision-making process in our building. They wanted their voices to be heard, but also that they wanted professional learning that was directly impactful on their classrooms and that it aligned with specific needs that they had for their students. And so lots of times I think professional learning can be done by outside consultants or in a one-size-fits-all manner so that teachers are all getting the same thing, whether they really need that learning or not. Giving them to have a choice and a voice in how they learn as professionals what kind of strategies that they want to try with their students, and making sure that aligns with what our school and our district needs and priorities are is important for us.
Now, you call this professional learning pathways. How is that different from PLCs and all the other things that we've heard of before?
We also have PLCs in our building. We call them common course teams at our high school. Our teachers who teach the same content and same courses work together collaboratively to analyze the data from common formative assessments to make instructional decisions. Our pathways are a little bit different in that they are driven by teachers identifying areas of growth for themselves. And so in August, they take a needs assessment aligned with what our district improvement initiatives are and this Georgia teacher evaluation standards. So we offer 5 pathways to our staff. The first one is instructional planning and content knowledge. They also can choose from instructional strategies focusing on differentiation. They can look at assessment needs and uses and assess different types of assessment strategies, at developing positive relationships with students and families and different stakeholders in our community. And then how are they able to amp up rigor and relevance in the classroom? They take an assessment, they rank the 5 pathways in order of preference to them, and essentially stick with that same pathway throughout the school year. It's created small groups for our teachers, so they meet during their planning period, really twice a semester. So the first one is in September, where we have teachers in our building that are leading each pathway because they've demonstrated that they've got an area of expertise in that particular one. And so they meet with those teachers in groups of 5 to 6 usually, and they discuss different strategies that fall within the umbrella of the pathway that they're working in. And so they go back to their classrooms, they implement those strategies. They also complete peer observations and watch each other teach, and then reflect back on that implementation the following month. For the second semester, they repeat the process, but they just go a little bit deeper into those strategies and really try to grow their expertise in that, so that by the end of the year that they really can say, hey, I feel like I've improved in this one particular area.
Oh, peer observations. That's absolutely, in my personal experience, one of the most valuable, but often the least used, because you got to find a sub, right, for that teacher. And it's so hard to get subs, but it's so valuable. So, what kind of feedback are you getting from your teachers in terms of how they feel like it's impacting the classroom?
Couple of different things. Our staff has said that they really enjoy working across disciplines. Lots of times they kind of get in their bubble. All of our math teachers are with the math department and our English teachers are with English. But in this model, they really get a chance to collaborate across content areas. But that gives them an opportunity to get to know more people in the building, develop stronger relationships with their colleagues, also bounce around ideas and see what they would look like in different settings and with different levels of students. One of our teachers teaches with our self-contained math students. He went and observed an AP science course. And what he brought back to his classroom was a way to strengthen the way he asked questions to his students, how to take the questions he had been using and amp those up to a higher depth of knowledge for students, and really learning how to push his students in the math classroom. So they're taking ideas from each other in spaces that they normally wouldn't have observed in or seen, but bringing it back in a way that is meaningful for their kids and in their classrooms.
And these are the kind of stories that people scratch their head and go, I never would have thought about that. It's driven by the teachers and they're motivated, and this is what they've asked for. It makes a huge difference when a teacher asks for it. They're saying, hey, I want to learn this. That's just so empowering, isn't it?
Yes. And I think that was the other really large feedback we got from our teachers, was that they also wanted an opportunity to lead. We wanted to address our teacher retention rates across the country right now. Teacher shortages are a real thing. We talked to our staff. They said, look, we don't want to leave the classroom to be leaders. We want an opportunity to do that and stay with students. And so trying to think outside the box about how to create instructional leadership opportunities for them was really a goal of our admin team. And to think outside the box beyond just a committee or a student mentor. How can we use them as experts in the field to grow them as leaders and to grow our staff in the areas that they are serving students?
You're so passionate about customizing it for your educators. But what about students? Do you want to customize for them too?
We do. Part of our responsibilities as the assistant principal of teaching and learning at our school is to take care of our master schedule. We work very closely with our guidance counselors to make sure that we are really looking at plans that play to students' strengths. I think education has come a really long way from when I was in high school. At the time, it felt like if you were an honors student, you had to be honors across the board. And so you either were tracked in that direction, you were tracked for a career or remedial program. And so we really want to make sure that we're not doing that to students, and that we're looking at opportunities to give them advanced coursework and places of strength. And that if they need supports or more time in certain places, that we are also offering that to them as well. We want to create opportunities for them to step out and lead. I think that's definitely critical for our kids to be successful beyond high school, not just get a diploma, but be ready to serve in their communities. And so finding places where they're very passionate right now is important for us. And so we try to create internship opportunities with our community stakeholders where our kids can get plugged in different arenas. Sometimes that's inside of our school building. Sometimes that's outside with different businesses. For example, we had a student last year who came to me and said, Ms. Walker, I'm really interested in getting my pilot's license. I really think that I want to be a pilot after I graduate. And so we partnered with the West Georgia Regional Airport to find him an internship there instead of adding on an additional elective class that he didn't need. Just kind of thinking outside the box about how can we get kids really invested in their learning and topics and ideas that really drive them and motivate them.
What do you do when your colleagues at other schools say, oh, but Courtney, our school is just too big. That's too much to manage. It's too hard to do. How do you make it manageable?
It's a lot of work. I won't shy away from that. If you knew of any person in our building, I would proudly say that the people, the teachers, the counselors, the administrators in our building are some of the hardest working people I've ever met. But we do it because it's what's in the best interest of kids. We don't shy away from the extra time or effort to do that and make sure we create opportunities for students that they may not have been presented with otherwise. And I think being mindful to recognize their efforts is equally critically important, but also helping them create some balance too. Mental health has many facets. And so for a lot of our kids who are extremely academically aggressive, we spend a lot of time working through strategies about how to prioritize those things that are the most passionate for them. And if we can help them verbalize and communicate that, then we can better serve them in how we prioritize their course loads. And so, yes, it requires more work. Yes, it requires more effort, but I do believe it's in the best interest of students.
So it sounds like personalized learning is a mindset.
It very much is.
So what's your advice to administrators as they're saying, okay, I want to apply some of these in my school? Where do they start? What's the easiest way to do that?
We have had an extremely supportive superintendent and board of education who, when we bring things to them and say, this is something we want to do and implement, they believe in getting to yes if it's in what's in the best interest of students. And so that's really a starting place. But the idea development and the carry out of a lot of these ideas is at the teacher level. And so initiatives and positive change do not happen top down typically. They may start there, but they often fall flat if it's administrators are the ones who are driving the bus forward. And so finding your runners in the school, who are your teachers who can get behind the idea and them really be the ones who are carrying it out and see it happen, because they also are the ones who can poke holes in it, find the tripping points for you if you're putting in some systematic changes. We've got our team of teachers are ones that are doing that. And they look at things from different perspectives that our admin team may not see it from, and really making sure we're intentional to balance those voices. When we put this in place several years ago, we start every summer with a school leadership team, school improvement planning session. And so we take our teachers off campus, we feed them. Lots of times changing the environment helps those conversations to flow a little bit more freely. So we take the whole day. The morning we sit and we go through all of the data from the previous school year, whether that be student achievement data or discipline attendance data. And we talk about big events and initiatives that we roll out in our building, and we get their feedback. And then we develop our school improvement plan collaboratively with those teachers and then revisit that plan every single month in our leadership meeting to make sure that if we're saying this is what's the most important to us as a team, that we're actually following through and seeing it happen. And if it's not, then we have to troubleshoot that and figure out, is it something we need to table for now and come back to, or do we need to reassess altogether? And so I think really having the teachers in the decision-making process from start to finish is really what will move any kind of positive changes forward in a building.
It sounds like you're an administrator who respects teachers.
I want to. I hope that my staff feels like that about me. I think they're the best. We have the greatest teachers, and they all have a little bit different background and a little bit different passions, but I can stand behind a school or a team if I didn't believe that they loved kids. And so I can say that wholeheartedly, our teachers, that they love students. I don't think you find many teachers who go into the profession who don't feel that way about kids. Mm-hmm. It's really just giving them a platform and an avenue to figure out what they can contribute to the growth of a school to make sure that we're making it happen.
Well, thank you, Courtney Walker, 2024 NASSP National Assistant Principal of the Year. I love this approach to personalizing learning. I think that when you believe in something, it should be used with students and with teachers. It just makes so much sense. And also, change happens when we all respect one another. That's just part of working with people and helping things be positive and move forward. So thanks for coming on the show, Courtney.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Cool Cat Teacher Talk with award-winning teacher Vicki Davis.
Thank you, Courtney. Today we're talking about the real deal, real AI, real change, and real progress. You can find the show notes at coolcatteacher.com/real deal. This is Vicki Davis, and you're listening to Cool Cat Teacher Talk. Our next interview is another award-winning principal as she talks about how they prepare their students for the real world. This is Misa Sato. We're talking to Misa Sato and talking about her remarkable work as an assistant principal of Reagan High School in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Under her leadership, the school has received numerous awards for student achievement and has seen significant growth in its International Baccalaureate career program. She is dedicated to her students and committed to creating diverse teaching opportunities, and it's truly inspiring. So today we're going to explore her story and the impact she's had on her school and community. She is one of the 3 nominees for NASSP's National Assistant Principal of the Year. I know that administration is a team and you have a lot of people who work with you, of course. But what are some of the things, the changes and the things you've been part of that you're most proud of?
One of the things that I'm the most proud of is the growth of our IB career-related program. So the IB career-related program is a newer International Baccalaureate program. I believe it started in the IB around 2010. And Reagan was one of the first schools that actually was authorized to become an IB career-related program. We were authorized in 2013. So within this program, we originally started with 2 career pathways for kids. So information technology and health science. And then most recently, about a year and a half ago, we started an education pathway for kids. Students essentially enroll into this program prior to their junior year of high school, then do career-focused coursework and also fieldwork experience and internships that align with those career pathways, essentially so we can connect kids to community and job openings that we are currently seeing in the city of Milwaukee, but we know that it's also happening across the U.S. too.
So how many students do you have in the programs now?
Right now, we have probably about 175. We started with 7 kids in 2013. So we've seen some tremendous growth, but I also think that growth is tied into just the job market that we're seeing, and kids are seeing applicable jobs within health science, information technology, and then in education.
What are the students and the parents saying about the program?
Yeah, the students are really invested. I think for them, it's a really cool high school experience to be able to kind of focus in almost on like a major that they would in college. So they take International Baccalaureate courses, which they can earn college credit in, but then they also get the exposure to the community side and are working either as youth apprentices or as interns. We have a handful of students that are working as certified nursing assistants right now. And so they're able to see how their coursework also translates to what they could be doing in the future. So that's really exciting for us and for the kids. For parents, I think that they're excited that we are kind of making those connections for kids within high school. And so they're not waiting for their students to go to college or post high school to kind of figure out what they're trying to do. Kids are making some decisions about their future careers a little bit earlier, which does save some time and money.
What kind of impact does it have if a student picks a quote major or a area of focus and then realizes, hey, I'm not interested in this. I want to do something else. Are they limited in any way by going on to college or changing fields? Does this limit them at all?
Absolutely no limit. And we actually encourage them if they're changing their mind in high school. That's kind of the beauty of this program is they haven't invested thousands and thousands of dollars in a college tuition and then changing majors, but they're doing it prior to that so they can make some more informed decisions as they do to go to college. There's no harm in them changing their minds. And that's something that we kind of encourage them to do, like explore what you're interested in now in high school. So you don't have to do that exploration phase when you're paying for it.
So take me back in time. Change requires leadership and new things require leadership. And I want you to think of, since 2013, hardest questions you were asked and your thought process in that moment and how you responded to that and how you kind of led through the hardest questions.
Yeah, I think some of the hardest questions are like, how are you going to build a team? We know at the school level, staff have a lot going on and there's a lot of extracurricular requirements on teachers and administrators. And so trying to build a team of people that we know is going to build capacity, but then also be sustainable. And so that's been something that we have thought about is how can we ensure that this program has staff that are involved that are really committed to the mission of what this looks like, but then also recognize like it is a lot of extra work to make sure that things happen and to make those community connections with students that do happen outside of their work day. And so just the value of building a team, I think has been one of our challenges, but then also something that we've seen, like we have gotten to this point because of our team. We wouldn't be able to be where we are today without any of the staff involvement that we have.
So when you went to those teachers as the program was started and you were trying to get them on the team, what were some of the things that you said? How did you handle that conversation?
Something that has been really helpful is that I previously was a science teacher. And so a lot of the teachers on our team are science teachers and are invested in like the health science community outside of the school. And so leveraging their existing relationships with community partners has been really key. And then I think staff that are willing to invest their time when they see that their community partner that they've brought in is also going to be a part of this program.
So they kind of like the connection with the real world.
Is definitely like a core of the IB too. So it kind of goes hand in hand of what the work that the teachers are already doing in their classroom with their IB coursework, but then also just kind of makes a little bit more seamless transition for kids.
There's unique challenges with being an assistant principal, right?
I think my biggest piece of advice is just to be flexible. Pre-pandemic, we probably would have been able to say like, oh, in 5 years, this is where we want our school or our programs to be. Obviously, during and post-pandemic, everyone is kind of trying to figure out what that looks like. But I think my biggest piece of advice as an assistant principal is to be flexible. I mean, your day is never going to look like you want it to.
We always joke about a beatitude I once heard from a former pastor. Blessed are the flexible, for they won't get bent out of shape. Well, Misa Sato, this is a very exciting program, and it does take leadership to lead and create programs. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Vicki.
Cool Cat Teacher Talk with award-winning teacher Vicki Davis.
Now we're going to take a little bit of a shift in our focus for today to talk about helping students become responsible and taking ownership of their own homework. Now, as a mom of 3, this was a challenge for me to help my students become independent. The one thing I'll say is that a paper planner was always part of the equation. When students put things in electronics, a lot of times that homework literally isn't real. It makes it real when they bring it into the physical world and they check it off that list. So that would be my encouragement. Now let's talk to Brian Page as he talks about homework hacks to help you at home. So today we're talking to Brian Page, a former Milken National Educator of the Year. He spent 15 years as an educator. He's also creator of the Self-Help Homework Hacks course, which lets students age 13 to 22 learn research-backed homework hacks and independent learning strategies.
The goal is to address the independent learning strategies that are a lifelong learning skill. This isn't a topic such as math or science where the idea is to help a child learn a specific content area. Rather, the strategies that we know through science are an effective way to learn independently. And the reason that I decided to do this is because as a father myself, it's really hard to find the time to be able to support your own children with all the activities that they already have, for teachers to do the same thing. It takes the pressure off of parents who come home, like my wife and I, we both work and we're really tired, we're exhausted, we want to do a good job, and either we lack the time or perhaps you lack the resources to hire a private tutor, or you just lack the expertise. Students are in high school. AP classes are tough. They might come home with material that we don't remember. And this really is designed to help students dig into that material and have a deeper understanding themselves.
So where do we start? What's number one?
What does learning look and feel like? When you're learning, you're actually doing things and you're working, and it's not passive. You're not highlighting something. You're not rereading material. If you're looking at somebody who's learning, you're looking at somebody who's actually doing. The second hack is how to get organized. And for myself, this was something I saw as a classroom teacher. There seemed to be a distinct difference between students who earned really good grades and students who perhaps struggled a little bit more. And oftentimes that difference is just their organizational skills. One of the things that I recognized in my career is when I assigned something that was for homework, the students who would instantly open up their binders and write down what they need to accomplish and when, I almost every time knew that student was going to earn an A, because they were organized. That should be a foundation of any student who's an independent learner. So the next would be just what your body and your brain need to learn, right? So I feel this now working from home. If you just sit all day long, it's exhausting. And you need to get up and moving. You need to exercise. And exercise doesn't mean being a state champion track athlete. It could just mean, walking with friends. And what is the right kind of way to treat your body, right? So it's important to drink a lot of water. The right kinds of foods are important. What we like to address is just food as fuel for learning and feeling good about yourself. The next learning hack would be the course-long learning strategies. So I mean by that would be like a lot of strategies from the book Make It Stick for Powerful Teaching, where you do things like the scaffolding of concepts and spacing, where those strategies we know through science are effective. Cramming is not. And so we explain in detail how it is that you go through an interleaving process. What kinds of specific strategies can you use, like retrieval boxes as an example. So instead of just an old school note cards, which we know that they're effective, but not as effective as they could be, how you can take note cards and use retrieval strategies that incorporate spacing to become a more effective independent learner. We dive into specific note-taking strategies, not just Cornell notes. No, Cornell notes are just fine. There's nothing wrong with Cornell notes, but so much about how a student learns really is going to drive down deeply into what is their preference. I actually had a student at The Ohio State University, and she overcame dyslexia. So she shares how she does sketchnoting, which is more visual note-taking and how that's effective. So mnemonics, when we think of mnemonics, we think of the ABCs, right? I challenge you to try to say the ABCs without singing it or hemming that tune. So it just goes into different mnemonic strategies that students can learn on their own. And then the next strategy after that is something that I find to be essential. And that's the difference between a growth and fixed mindset. As the son of a special education teacher, I need to express how important it is that our students all believe that they can learn and that IQ is not fixed. It is that your brain is a muscle that can grow, and that a test score is not a stamp of intelligence, but rather it's an opportunity to understand what you need to spend more time learning. Fortunately, the way our school systems are designed, I'm not a total fan of like grading, for example. It gives you this feel that you earn something and you are something. And that's just not how the real world works, right? The real world is us always trying to take these ideas and these challenges that we're faced with at work and then learning how to overcome them. And it's not a stagnant process. It's this ongoing process. Just look at what you've accomplished, Vicki. Like most of the things that you do right now didn't exist 30 years ago. You just constantly are learning and growing and then sharing with teachers. Then independent reading strategies, that really builds off of a growth mindset. And then finally, learning in pairs or small groups. And the first thing we try to address is that, yes, sometimes when you do group work in school, sometimes it feels more like they're teaching you how to work with people who don't like to work more than they're teaching you how to work with groups.
So we have 9 hot homework hacks, right?
Did I miss 9? Yes. It should be 9. Yeah.
Parents, as you've listened, I do want to go back and just point one big thing out that Brian has said, this interleaving and spacing. I've been reading a great book over the past few months as we're recording this called Small Teaching. And it's actually about how these principles are applied in the college classroom, this whole principle of interleaving and helping our students have these strategies is very important because it's part of their success. And you know, I had a parent, I work with seniors, is one of my classes, and I had a parent who said about a particular concern with this particular student, oh, well, he'll learn it sometime. And I said, well, do you want him to learn it now when he's under your roof, or do you want to learn it when you're paying $10,000 a semester or however much it is at your college? Then, you know, so these are things that will pay off dividends for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you for having me.
Cool Cat Teacher Talk with award-winning teacher Vicki Davis.
This is Vicki Davis, and you've been listening to Cool Cat Teacher Talk as we talk about the real deal, real AI, real change, and real progress. You can get the show notes at coolcatteacher.com/real deal. If you missed any of this show, check out the back episodes on YouTube or subscribe to Cool Cat Teacher Talk on your favorite podcast tool. And tune in every week on your favorite radio or TV station that hosts the show. So let's end with a little bit of encouragement. In the article, 5 Ways to Be Happier, the authors recommended that every 60 to 90 minutes, we need to take a break and do something non-productive or playful. I find it interesting that someone I admire, William Wilberforce, who had one of the greatest accomplishments in his lifetime of helping slavery become outlawed in the British Kingdom, he always had a Sabbath rest. It is not okay to rush. We need time to slow down. How long has it been since you've looked at the clouds or taken a walk or had a long talk with a friend? Here's to slow, beautiful mornings and quiet afternoons with a good book, still small moments with a sparkling glass of tea in the sunshine. Here's to happy giggles and water slides, funny faces and homemade ice cream. Here's to game night and mini muffin mornings. Let's hold hands and let's sit still. Let's take a moment to breathe. We all sure need it. This is Vicki Davis, and this is Cool Cat Teacher Talk, where we talk about what matters in the classroom. And you matter. Every single one of you listening to this show matter. You are of infinite worth, and you're full of purpose. May we slow down and catch a glimpse of who we're meant to be.
Stay in the loop. Visit coolcatteacher.com for the latest tips and trends.